Welcome to the Finding Financial Freedom podcast with the Frugal Physician, where Dr. Disha Spath will be your companion on this exciting financial adventure. Get ready to conquer debt, build wealth, and embrace a mindful spending lifestyle that will empower you to live life on your own terms.
Welcome back to Finding Financial Freedom with the Frugal Physician. I'm your host, Dr. Disha Spath, and today I'm so excited to introduce a guest whose work and story are truly inspiring. Samantha, also known as Sammi Norman, is the founder of Skate to Wealth, a financial literacy platform that helps people take control of their finances and build a path to financial freedom. With years of experience as a journalist, working as a reporter, news producer, and writer, Sammi spent much of her career uncovering stories and informing the public. However, it was her own personal journey towards financial empowerment that sparked a passion for finance and inspired her to shift careers. Now she's dedicated to making finance fun, accessible, and practical for everyone, especially those who felt excluded from traditional financial spaces. As the investment bestie, Sammi offers easy to understand courses, workshops, and products through Skate to Wealth to help people master money management and achieve long term financial success. Her mission is to help people overcome their fear of finance and create a future where financial literacy is the norm, not the exception. Sammi, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you here today.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure, and thank you for that introduction.
Absolutely. We met at the Women in Money conference down in New York City. How was your experience there?
It was lovely. It was great to be in a room with so many powerful women that had their hearts in finance in their own way. Everybody in a different path. Like for yourself, you're in the medical field, focusing on doctors. I think that's amazing. So that was really great to see all of the different women in their different industries with the same passion.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a new thing, women being into finance, into personal finance. And from my background as an Indian, it's very, very odd for a woman to talk about finances. And even, in this generation, although it's getting better, it's new and awesome to see so many women feeling empowered about their own financial situation and wanting to educate other people. Well, let's hear a little bit about your story. Tell us where you come from, how you got started, and all the shifts you took to get to where you are now.
Sure, no problem. We grew up moving around a lot as a kid. That's why when people ask me today, where are you from? I'm like, well, from the US. That's what I can say. Because we lived in so many different places. My mom was in the military, but even after she got out of the military, she still had the mindset to just move. So we were already on our toes a lot of times, ready to go to the next place, making new friends wherever we went. But one thing that really stood out to me is that we did struggle a lot financially. So money was like a different type of conversation. It wasn't very positive a lot of times. So I knew when I grew up, I was like, okay, I want things to be different for me, but I just didn't know how to make those changes necessarily. And I think that is one of the things that a lot of people struggle with today. Like they want to make a change. They want something better for themselves. They want better financial resorts. They want to invest, but they just don't know how. And for me, it started working. Like you mentioned, my background is in journalism, and I was used to going to work every day, making enough to be okay, but I always knew that I wanted more. And I also wanted to understand investing. I wanted to understand money. And I guess social media, seeing people doing all these luxury things, I'm like, oh, wow, I wish I made enough to do this and that. And I just wanted more. It was kind of inspiring for me, even though I know a lot of things on social media you can't take serious all the time. But one day I was at work at the news studio, and I was working on a story about a company receiving a contract with the government. I always wanted to start investing in stocks, but I just didn't know anything about it. And from my perspective, only people who had a lot of money would invest into stocks. But I was like, okay, I think I'm going to do this. So wrap my story up and right there at my desk when I'm supposed to be finding other things to do for work, I actually opened up a brokerage account and I put my $200 into the same company that I just did a story on. It was Kodak. So within probably a day or so, I made about like $700. And this is me not knowing anything about stocks, investing at all. So from there, I was like, okay, I have to learn this. If this was this easy for me, then this is something that I have to learn. So that really was the spark, the fire to me learning all about investing, long-term trading. But what I did learn is number one, I did get lucky. That doesn't happen. It's not that easy. That was just a unicorn that it just so happened I invested in something that blew up. What people want is a lot of results like that, overnight success when it comes to investing long term or trading. But it does take time, and it does take you putting in a lot of effort to learn more about what you're doing and what you're investing in. So, but that did spark everything from there.
I see. Well, sometimes just getting over the fear of investing and just doing it and doing something is the key, right? To getting going. Of course, as we continue, we learn about tax issues, especially for doctors, looking at tax advantages of investing in retirement accounts, looking for long term return is very important. And that's why we tend to stray away from individual stock investing as our major allocation for where our funds are going. But I appreciate that you were able to just take action and do something. And that's often the hardest part. Often we get stuck in analysis paralysis. That is very admirable. Let's back up a little bit and talk about your upbringing a little bit more. Please tell me like where your family comes from culturally.
So culturally, we are a Southern family, mostly from Alabama.
Okay.
A lot of cultural foods and dances and just mindsets. But I feel like one thing that is missing, I think, in my family growing up was the talk about money, how it is achievable. So lots
Yeah.
of love and everything else. And it's amazing how you never know what you're missing. Love is just priceless, right? So
Yeah.
we didn't even know when we didn't have anything that we didn't have it because we were surrounded by so much love.
You mentioned your mom, but not dad. Was your mom a single mom?
Yes, my father was injured like really badly early on when I was probably about 4 years old.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
He took like a bad fall down some stairs and was paralyzed
Oh
when I
my
was
God.
very young. Right before that, they divorced. When he took his fall, it wasn't really too many family members that could care for him full time. So he was placed in a elderly facility
Mm.
very young. So I would have to go and visit him there.
Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry. Clearly, there was a lot of trauma associated with all of that. And then you also moved around with your mom quite a lot. So I'm guessing you weren't in the same town as him all the time. Is that
Yeah,
right?
right. So there was a point where we had to like travel back to go and see him. But I did enjoy the times where we were in the same city because we were able to like go pick him up, take him to church with us, things like that.
So basically, if financially, your mom was on her own to take care of you. Did you have any siblings?
Yes, I have. It's a total of five of us. So me, a younger sister, and three older brothers.
Oh, okay. Wow. So you said money was not a pleasant topic in your household. How did you even start learning about all this stuff? Was your mom investing? Did she teach you anything about money management?
No, not at all. My mom, I think she taught me about the struggle and the pain with money. And with
Hmm.
me seeing that, I was like, okay, I don't want this.
Hmm.
And I just didn't know, like, okay, how can I change it? As I got older and just doing my own research and learning, I just figured out things that I could do to not follow the same cycle. But it was me seeing all of the struggle that I knew that I didn't want to repeat that cycle or the same statistics of finances.
Yeah. And so how did you get into journalism? Where'd you go to school and who did you work for?
When I was younger, I really loved to just recount what was happening on video. So I remember having one of those big cameras, and me and my sister would always record us talking and, showing what we were doing. I guess we were kind of like how social media is today, everybody speaking about what they're doing on camera. But when we had the big VHSs, I just loved it. And I always loved to tell my story. And I felt like I could really change people by telling my story. So that sparked my mission for like journalism. And then I also love to write poems, and poems would also be my way of, getting out my emotions, especially with all of the struggles and stuff that we were going through. So that was another thing that pushed me. So I went to school at a historically Black college called Benedict College in Columbia, South Carolina.
Okay.
And that's where I obtained my bachelor's degree, and I obtained a master's degree at SCAD in Savannah, Georgia. That was for writing.
Nice. Yeah. Savannah's close to my heart. That's where we lived before we moved to New York. So very familiar with SCAD. It's a great school. Did you have to take out any student loans to go to school?
I did. I had to take out student loans. I was actually one of the first people in my family to go to college. So I didn't really know a lot about like what to do or how to do. I think I started applying for scholarships way too late. When it was time for me to go to college, I had some scholarships, but it wasn't enough to cover my entire tuition. And Benedict College, it's considered a private institution, so it was a lot more.
So how much did you come out with in the end, student loan wise?
So I ended up between Benedict College and SCAD, which is the art school, I ended up with probably 150,000.
I see. And how's your student loan situation now?
My student loans are nearly paid off.
Oh, wow.
I think I have about maybe 10,000 left to go.
Awesome. How far out are you from school at this time?
I graduated SCAD probably 2018, so like 6 years.
Wow, you've made some really significant progress on your student loans. Tell me about your financial journey. When you first got started as a journalist, how did you set up your finances and what was your mindset, and where have you come since then? You've made some serious progress on your student loans. Tell us about the rest of your debt situation.
Sure. When I first got started as a journalist, I was just happy to be making money. I don't think I really understood budgeting. I didn't really understand debt. I knew like, okay, we're supposed to pay off, but I didn't understand the significance of anything dealing with money. But, I think I was just doing what I saw what my mom do growing up. Anything that she had, she would end up spending. So that was really what I started doing. And it wasn't necessarily that all of my money had to go towards bills. If I had anything left over, I would find a way to spend it because I had it. And it was those bad money habits that made me also end up in a position where I was probably over 60% of America today living paycheck to paycheck. And I'm thinking, how could this be? I'm making money, but also I have to wait to my next paycheck to be able to have more. And I wanted to break out of that cycle.
How much money were you making around average?
When I started out, my first news job, I was probably making like 30,000, which is no money. That was in South Dakota. That was my first reporter job, but rent was like super cheap. I really didn't have many other bills. I didn't have a car note. So to me, I was like, I've made it, which is crazy to think now how, little money that is.
Perspective, man. Yeah.
And that was in 2012. Then after that, that's when I went and got my master's degree. And then I went from the 30,000 after I graduated to working at the station in Savannah to, I think, 50,000. And yeah, even then I was like, okay, this is it. I'm doing big things. So from there, I think I went to Alabama, and Alabama, I was probably at maybe 55, 60,000.
Mm-hmm.
And then Alabama coming to California, my first position here, I was at probably 70,000. And then from 70,000, I went to about 90,000. And that was the last company.
All right. Are you still in California now?
Yes.
What part?
I'm in the Bay Area, Oakland, San Francisco area.
Oh, that is expensive. Okay. So tell me, we were just at the part of your story where you're telling us how you were about to turn things around and stop living paycheck to paycheck. Were you in any other than student loan debt? Did you have any other debt that you were handling at that point?
Oh man, I was covered. And it was like, it didn't happen right away. It was kind of like raindrops, right? They start building, those little droplets can eventually turn into a puddle. So that's how it started with my debt credit cards. Like, oh my God, I think it was a point where nobody would give me a credit card. And then I figured out when everybody would give me a credit card, and my mind just went crazy. So I was accepting credit cards here and there. I had so many, but that wasn't the problem. The problem was actually spending. So I got to a point where I was pretty heavy in debt. But then I think I was on YouTube and I discovered Dave Ramsey. And I thought he was just the grandpa that I always needed, right? People come on his show with their money stories and he just starts yelling at them, telling them what they need to do. And I was like, I already know if I go on his show, he's going to yell at me and say, Sammy, like, get it together, pay off this debt. What are you doing? Are you stupid? Like, what's going on with you? So I started listening to him, and it just became one of my hobbies to go on his show and listen to him yell at the next person about what they're doing. And then eventually it got into my head where like, okay, he's yelling at me too. So I started picking up side jobs. I would get off of work at the news, whether I was working evenings, no matter the shift, I would get off and I would initially it started with me delivering Uber Eats. And then I think after that, I started delivering groceries. So I literally had no life for a while. I think it was about 6 months where any side job, I would pick it up. I would get off of work and go back to work doing the side job on the weekends, all day, from the time I would wake up to the time I went to sleep. I would be delivering groceries. And all of that money, I was putting it towards paying off debt. I paid off my car like 3 years earlier. I paid off all of my credit cards. And that was, I think I was about over $20,000, maybe even close to $30,000 in debt.
Easy to do with all those fees adding up and the interest.
Yeah. So I was putting all of it. Like I didn't care about the extra money. I just wanted to pay off my debt. The feeling that I got from being able to do that, it just felt so great. From there, once all of that was paid off and the weight was lifted off my shoulders, I felt like I could breathe more. Then it started going into paying off the student loans, and still is. Student loans weren't as easy as everything else, but I was able to pay off my car and my credit card debt. So that was big to me.
So why do you say the student loans weren't as easy?
The higher amount, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So it wasn't like a quick turnaround like I
Yeah.
felt like the car and the credit cards were.
Right. Yeah. You really need to stick with it when you're dealing with, six-figure amount of debt and it doesn't go away very quickly. So yeah, you really have to have that persistence to just keep going, motivating yourself. And congratulations on all the progress you've made. All your credit card debt is paid off and your student loans are almost done. You have about $10,000 left. So what do you do after that? After the debt situation is getting handled?
So after I handled all of my debt, I think that's when I started looking in because I had extra money now. I started looking into learning about the stock market, learning how it works, how I can invest long term, how I
Mhm.
can eventually retire comfortably.
What's your family situation like now? Your personal family. Are you married? Do you have kids?
No, no kids, not married.
Okay. All
So,
right. Wonderful.
but
I mean,
if anybody's out there, I'm
yeah,
available.
independent lady. Love it. So, when you were paying off your debt, what do you think some of your biggest challenges were that you faced along the way?
I think a big challenge is probably for me was not being able to do a lot of fun things, especially with friends, not being able to travel,
Mhm.
not being able to buy the cute outfit that I saw online, just sticking to my goal of paying off debt, being really focused. And like I said, I had no social life. I literally became a workaholic just to pay off my debt. So I
Wow.
think sacrifice during that time was really big for me.
And that was about 6 months of time where you were just going, gazelle intensity, as Dave Ramsey calls it. When did you take your foot off the pedal and what things did you start to reincorporate in for your mental health?
When
Yeah.
I worked all day, like maybe I went to the news all like for my 8 hour shift. And then from there, other than food, all I did was work, work, work. And then I think it was like at the end of the night, I would come home and realize that I'm the only one there. And my phone is also dry. Nobody's calling, nobody's texting. Probably also because they knew I just was not available. So I think after that time, it was me trying to just navigate my way back into the social world of just going out and doing things, finding hobbies, getting my mind out of it. I started skating. So that's been another hobby for me and a way to get out. And then also just going to social events and socializing with people.
Wonderful. Yeah, your platform is called Skate to Wealth. So clearly it's a big part of your life. Is that rollerblading or like the traditional roller skates?
Yes, roller skates.
Roller skates, wonderful. And I'm sure the Bay Area provides you with plenty of opportunity to do that in beautiful places.
Life here is pretty big, and I didn't realize that until moving here.
Oh, wonderful. So tell me about your financial situation now that your loans are paid off and you're skating to wealth yourself. Tell me the things you did and how you got here and where you are now.
Sure. So after paying off my debt, like I said, I started focusing on finding ways to invest my money long term. I started learning how to trade. I became like a finance nerd in all sense, like reading, taking classes, you name it.
Wow.
Anything I watched on YouTube, if it wasn't motivation, it was finance. So from there, teaching myself how to trade and creating that income into a point where I was comfortable enough to be able to replace my income that I was making and making even more. So after saving up, I think about $70,000, I was like, okay, I can leave my job comfortably and just figure it out from here. So initially, when I left my job, I I was just excited that I figured out a way to make income and trade that I initially didn't have a idea in my mind about like starting courses or making it a business. I was just happy to be doing it on my own. But I noticed as I'm telling everybody about like, hey, do you know what this stock is? Did you hear about what happened with this stock? Or hey, this is exciting to me. Or do you know what's going on with this company? I would spark the interest of a lot of other people, especially within seeing how comfortable I was or excited talking about it. I got a lot of interest of friends or even people online when I started posting, like wanting to know more. And I was like, okay, I have to figure out a way that I can give back. And one of the ways that I can do that is by offering something like courses or workshops, things like that.
Okay, wonderful. So, how much monthly income are you making with trading these days?
So it really just depends monthly. I would say starting out, it was probably a few thousand, but now I can make anywhere from 6,000. I've seen $15,000 months. It really just depends on the market and everything else.
And how do you manage the tax implications for income like that that's coming, I'm assuming, from your brokerage account?
So I try to give back and do charity and things like that. I've always been giving, and I'm always looking for other ways to save on taxes, but I think it comes sometimes with the territory. But I haven't seen too many because of my giving and everything else that I do. So I think it's evened out over the years.
You haven't gotten too many surprise, really high tax bills, sounds like.
No,
All right. How do you do
not.
your giving? Do you do individual charities? Do you give lump sum? Do you use a donor advised fund?
I do giving for like local charities and homeless shelters. Homeless shelters are big for me because what I didn't mention earlier, there was a time when we were younger that we did experience homelessness. So
Oh,
I think that homelessness is probably like a paycheck or two away from a lot of Americans today. And I sympathize a lot with homeless people. Even coming here to California, it was just a major culture shock, just walking around in general and seeing the number of homeless people here and just knowing like, you know, although when we were homeless, we never slept outside in a way, like this is us because we didn't have a home. And I know that underneath all of this, these people without homes are still people. And I think a lot of people don't see that at some point, especially like with the lack of care or sympathy for them. So I do give a lot to homeless shelters for that
oh,
reason.
that's really noble. And I'm so sorry your family went through that. That is definitely traumatic. So, as far as how you're doing your financial work now, as I mentioned before, I tend to point people away from individual stock investing because it does really have to be kind of your full-time thing in order to understand everything that's going on with companies and make good bets, as far as where you're investing. I think it's important for everyone to know kind of the basics of what stocks are and how to evaluate them. So can you tell us just generally stock investing? Can you tell us the difference between growth versus value stocks and how you evaluate your stocks?
Sure. So I evaluate them through a number of different factors. And sometimes the motivation for me actually could be as simple as what am I spending my money on the most, or what company I really see a future in outside of looking at the numbers. And an example for that, I think for a lot of people, might be a company like Apple. You know, we're always buying, we're supporting because one, we believe in the future growth potential. So that is one way that Apple is an example of a growth stock. So growth stocks are potentially, it's just a company that you believe or that is valued as a company that does or will see future growth. And another company like that I believe in a lot for the growth potential and for the innovation is Tesla. Tesla's making a lot of changes. They released the Cybertruck and a lot of other things going into factor with the company and the autonomous driving.
Yeah, Cybertrucks. People tend to have interesting opinions on them, but I've seen a couple around in my area recently. They're humongous.
Yeah.
And well, anyway, so yeah, okay, so you go by your personal experience. Are you looking at PE ratios? Are you looking at their financials and what the management of the company is doing and that kind of thing on a day-to-day basis?
Yes. So for growth stocks, I am looking at the PE ratio. I'm looking at the finances. I'm looking at the growth potential. And then for value stocks, I'm also considering like how they're valued. I'm looking at like other factors, like what are the dividends, what's happening in the company, what is it, volatile stock, just the overall growth and other factors as well.
What do you consider a value stock? What are some of the characteristics that make them a value stock?
So I would just say, for one, how is it valuable to the consumer? That's number one. Is it a company that is considered being able to supply something that is making some type of product that is really impacting the society or community in a way? But one of the examples I would say for a value would be a company like Johnson & Johnson. They have a number of different products, although it's not as popular or known as a company like Tesla. It's a company that supplies a lot of products that people continuously buy over time. And people don't think of Johnson & Johnson as like, oh, innovation, right? There's probably not a company that people are thinking that they're working on something major or life-changing, but they have products that people use day to day that are not going to go away probably ever. And then another company that I would say has similar characteristics would be a company like Coca-Cola, right? Company that's been around for years. They provide products that we use every day that are not going anywhere. The company has, not only does it have the income, it has the structure, it has the lower PE ratios, it has all the characteristics that people, not only people, but analysts and everyone else sees the value long term.
And how much of your day do you spend evaluating these companies and watching what the stock market is doing?
So it's just a part of my day when people clock into work. My clock in is in the mornings. I am trading and I'm not spending all day. When I initially started out, I was spending because I thought, okay, I'm a trader, right? This is what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to just trade constantly all day. What I figured out is less about the quantity and more about the quality, and finding good trades, finding good stocks, making my profit, and then getting out for the day. And then I could spend my other part of the day doing research, evaluating companies, and then also paying attention to what the news is doing, because that also plays a factor in not so much long term. It can be, of course, because news is important. It could be something that changes long term, but maybe there's something that's happening that could affect just how a stock is doing for that week or that quarter or that month.
You mentioned income different months, but have you seen any months where you just had significant losses?
Not to a point where, I wasn't still creating income, but I have had times where I've lost a lot. But also when the market, is down, you can also make money with puts if stocks are dropping. And I've actually made more money that way when stocks are falling than I have made when they're going up, because when they fall, like they fall, they crash, and a lot of people are scared. They're selling, so they are falling fast a lot of times before they're going up at the same rate.
So what do you do? What move do you make when the stocks are falling?
I'm buying put options. One of the companies that I made the most money on when they were falling was Peloton. Peloton bike. I remember it was around the time, like right after COVID, when everybody was pretty much getting back into the gym. And I was watching these analysts talk about it. And, they're not supposed to say necessarily 100% bad on a company. They're supposed to be pretty mutual or in between on it. But it was like what they were not saying. They're like, I don't know. But they didn't really want to badmouth the stock too much. So looking at that, looking how everybody was heading back to the gym and doing things like that, I was like, I don't know. I think this is not going to be good for them. And it was right around the time that they were going to do earnings. So I got a bunch of put options, and it was that same earnings call where everything started to crash. And like now, I think the stock is probably pretty low. I don't remember, probably just a few dollars now, but it's pretty bad.
So tell me about a put option. Tell me about options in general. What is that and how do you utilize them?
So an option is basically you buying a aspect of it, just saying that, okay, I think this stock is going to either rise or it's going to fall. A call option is saying that, okay, I think over time the stock is going to go up. A put option is saying the total opposite. And each option has a expiration date. So you have until that expiration to reach the goal that you set in, which is a set price. For example, I think NVIDIA's, it was around like maybe 140. And this week it's been doing really good. So if you had a call option for 140, you would have made a profit this week versus buying a put option. And I did the same thing with like stocks like Netflix. On Netflix, it wasn't the financials that I looked at necessarily because at the time they didn't have the updated financials saying that they were losing, but they had an earnings call where they were going to announce their earnings for the quarter. But right before they announced the earnings for it, they raised their prices for Netflix right before the earnings call. So to me, that was a red flag. Right before your earnings call, you're raising the price for people to pay monthly. To me, that was a red flag saying, okay, they're losing out. They're not making the profits that they want to make. And it turned out I was correct on that as well. And I made a lot of money off of the put option, which was saying that I think the option is going to go down. And people were asking me, they're like, did you know this stock was going to go down? No, I didn't know. That's the one thing about when it comes to getting into trades, especially trading during earnings time or even options, you never know.
In fact, it's illegal if you
Yeah.
know, right? If you know and it's going to go down, you can't actually act on that because that's against, the FTC rules. But options are a guess, right? It's a best guess based on all the information that's available. And you're
Yeah.
basically making a bet that either the stock's going to go up or down. And sometimes it pays off and sometimes it doesn't. But it clearly takes a lot of work and knowledge in order to make a good guess.
Yeah. And then you just want to be careful with making sure you have your stop loss set up so that you're not losing significant amounts, because with high risk, there is, a chance of potentially losing out on a lot and then also making a lot. But you want to be on the end where even if you don't make a lot, you're not losing a lot of money when you're making a trade like that.
So what are some books on individual stock investing that you would recommend? What are some books that you read to learn how to do this?
Oh, I have some here.
That's good.
So I love Robert Kiyosaki. He's one of the other people that I follow. He has a book on investing long term. There's a bunch of trading books, but I follow the best to ever do it, like Warren Buffett, any book out there that he's written about his investing journey, things like that, I think people can learn from. But another one that I have here that I love is all about stock market strategies. And this one is by David Brown.
So do you do any long-term like index fund investing or ETF investing?
I do, but mostly, like we talked about, as individual, but I do long term, mostly like SPY and things like that. I feel like SPY is definitely a great one because it's made up of 500 companies, but I don't remember the exact ETF, but I have a couple of others like with the banks and also with the medical area as well, but I do as well. So I do think that ETFs are a great option because you're able to not focus all of your money into one particular stock, especially when you don't have the time to research particular company, because a lot of times you don't know about what is going on. You're not listening to the earnings call. You don't know what's happening until all of a sudden you see your portfolio dropping. So if you are able to get into an index fund or an ETF and you're able to just have a more balanced portfolio, I think that's a great option.
You said balance. So far, we've only talked about stocks. Do you do any bond investing?
No bond investing. I don't have anything against bond investing. I like futures and stocks. I don't know. I'm just super hyper focused in certain areas. So it's nothing against it. I do plan to invest in bonds in the future, but just not right now. I just hyper focus in certain areas before I move on to the next, but pretty soon for sure.
And are you doing any retirement investing?
Yes. I have a couple of Roths and I invest long term in those. I
Okay,
have
great.
one because of the one I had when I was working with my news career. And then I have one that I started outside of it because I haven't combined them yet, but they're going to be one. There's no benefit of having the two.
I see. Okay. So you have one old one that you're not contributing to anymore, and then the new one that you're
Right.
contributing to. Okay, got
Yes, that's correct.
it. All right. Makes sense. So you're investing in the Roth IRA for your retirement. Are you comfortable sharing what your net worth situation was, say, whenever you started investing or started your financial journey?
Okay. So my net worth then was probably zero. Negative. It was probably negative. Up until now, I can't really say what my net worth is, and that's not me trying to hide it. But I'm not a millionaire yet. Like, I think a lot of people assume people who work for themselves or that are trading stocks are automatically millionaires. Not yet, but I see that happening probably in the next couple of years. But I can say with the growth that I've seen with my finances and everything, that this is why I have the motivation to try to tell my story and help other people. I didn't start doing classes as a way to make money. I did it in a way to like help people. And even as I'm moving forward, I feel like my mission is to really give back. And if I can help one person, I feel like I've done my job. And I like, it means so much to me when people say like, thank you, you really helped me, I was able to change this. Like, those are the stories that matter to me, people that can see my mission or who I've helped in a way. So that's what really matters to me most.
Yeah, tell me about some of the success stories that you've been able to impact people in a positive way and change their life. Tell me about that.
Well, one of the biggest to me right now is being able to teach my nieces and nephews and my family about like stocks and investing. Like, I have a video on my page right now with my niece calling me to tell me what's happening in the stock market. And I just think that it's just amazing because I didn't have these same conversations when I was 10 years old. I definitely didn't know anything about stocks. So for her to call me and tell me what is happening in the stock market, I just thought it was just so amazing and funny at the same time.
That's adorable. You're clearly creating a generational impact here in your family by being more financially empowered.
Yes. So I think that's one of the things that we have to do is change the conversation first within our own families, at our own dinner tables, We speak a lot, I think in general, about like what's happening with celebrities and other things in the news, which sometimes can be important. But when we're sitting down and we're having those conversations at the dinner table, like sometimes we can, just try to shift them a little bit and maybe talk about the conversation of money, why it's important, and different things that we can do. And as you can see from my example, is you can start early. With those young minds.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Well, thank you for the work you're doing. Clearly, you're having a wonderful impact on those around you. And I appreciate you coming on to the show today and sharing your journey and, your perspective on finances and stock trading. Are there any last words you'd like to leave with our audience today?
Yes. So I do have a stock market trivia game, and that is called Trading Wars. You can find information about my stock market trivia game at my website at skate to wealth with the number 2.com. I created the game just to make learning about the stock market fun, just like, something like Scrabble. People are able to learn about, new words, and it's fun. I figured I'd make something about finance and make it fun in that way, because from what I see is a lot of people don't have the time or interest to learn, or even think that learning about money or finance can be fun, or investing. So that was my way of making it fun.
Wonderful. And where can they find you if they want more information?
So you can find me on social media at Sammi with an I, Sosa, or my website, which is skate2wealth.com. I also have a business page, and that's Skate to Wealth.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And we really appreciate your time. I hope you have a great day, Sammi.
Thank you as well. Thank you so much for having me.
Sammi, thank you so much for sharing your story and insights with us today. This was a bit of a different podcast because we're talking about individual stock investing, which is not generally something I do or recommend for most busy doctors. As you can see, Sammy's been doing this full time, and that's really the kind of effort it takes to make any kind of progress in individual stock investing. However, there have been long term studies that show that most people that are doing stock options trading generally either meet the index return or barely beat it. And generally, long term index investing, long term buy and hold investing is preferable for most full time working people, but also more profitable over the long term. But if you are interested in learning about individual stock trading and options trading, check out Sammy's site. There are also a couple of books on this that I would recommend you read. One is The Intelligent Investor by Benjamin Graham. That's a really dense 500-page book that will show you all the things you need to know in order to intelligently invest in value stocks for the long term. And then there's The Random Walk Down Wall Street by Burton Malkiel. That will show you all the different things that are going to play when you are investing in individual stocks and analyzing them, and why long-term investing is generally better, and earning the market's return instead of beating it is good enough. So, anyway, my goal with this podcast is to introduce you to concepts and to introduce you to other people's stories that might be inspiring to you, depending on where you are in your journey, to really just open the door and talk about people's personal finances and their personal approaches, as well as to bring on experts in the financial media space to talk about their knowledge and teach us something. In the end, it's up to us to evaluate what works for us the best, what fits our financial situation the best. And I encourage you to do your own research and your own evaluation for the topics that are discussed in this podcast. Not to say that I don't do that as well, but it's largely impossible to decide what fits everyone the best. Personal finance is personal. Everyone's personal approach is going to be a little bit different. Certainly, we can talk averages and we can talk about studies. But again, what everyone wants is a little bit different. Everyone's capacity is a little bit different. I do want to add a note about our last podcast guest. Becky was on here on this podcast, and I do want to make you aware that she does work for Northwestern Mutual, which has had several regulatory filings against it and does have a reputation for not doing right by a lot of doctors. So keep that in mind. But as you heard Becky's story, I'm sure you appreciated how she shared her journey and how insightful she was on money concepts as well as the psychology of money. So that's what I hope you take away from it. Do note her practice is a fee-based practice. So if you will go on to thefrugalphysician.com, you will see that a fee-based practice is a practice that includes both flat fee advising and perhaps some compensation and in commissions for the products they sell. And CFPs are mandated to act as a fiduciary, but know that that does create some conflict of interest. So in the end, I'd like to say that, in general, as you know, as doctors, when we work, we try to do the best for our patients. That's our oath, our Hippocratic oath. But there are always different motivations. We can't control the way our hospital bills and functions unless we're at the very top of the admin. And even then, it's somewhat difficult. So we all are individuals that work in imperfect systems, and we have to just be very careful about looking for conflicts of interests and evaluating them and looking at all the information available to us when we make good financial decisions for our own families. And in the end, when it comes down to it, don't be afraid to consult a professional. Generally, we recommend fee-only fiduciary advice for doctors. So try to find someone who doesn't also make commissions of the products they're selling you in order to get fair and completely non-biased advice if you can. Of course, nothing is perfect. Even someone who's trying to give you fair and non-biased advice might give you bad advice. You just need to, unfortunately, the fear of investing and the fear of making a mistake holds a lot of us back. And that's why this podcast is here, in order to provide you with the basic level of knowledge you need to make good financial choices, whether it's managing your own finances or hiring someone to manage your finances. So I hope that's what this podcast is providing you. And I hope you will continue to listen, give us feedback, and, continue to follow us for learning about finance, learning about other ways people are managing their own finances, and for expert insight into financial matters as well. If you enjoyed this podcast, please don't forget to share it and leave us a review. Positive reviews are very much appreciated, and negative feedback, I humbly ask you to send that over email to me at thefrugalphysician@gmail.com. What you think, what you say matters to me a lot. And I really, really appreciate the time that you take to listen to this podcast and share it. And so please talk to me. Tell me what you need. Tell me what you want. And from this podcast, from The Frugal Physician going forward. And if you're interested in writing about your journey, sharing your journey, please feel free to reach out to me. And I'd love to talk to you and have you on the podcast or the blog as well. Thanks again, and we will see you at the next show. This is Dr. Disha Spath, and you're listening to Finding Financial Freedom with the Frugal Physician. Stay frugal, y'all.
The content shared on this podcast should not be taken as individualized financial advice. We are here to share our knowledge and experiences, but it is crucial to consult with professionals such as accountants, financial advisors, or attorneys who can provide personalized guidance based on your specific needs.